Hello students and welcome to this explanation on operating budgets. This is a question that was taken from the 2019 first opportunity. It's quite a good question. It counts a total of 29 marks. And I want us to read together. I'm not sure how to pronounce the title of this business or the name. I'm just going to call it Q Limited. And also please take into account that all figures should be rounded to 2 decimals. This instruction was not written in the question because in the first opportunity, on the front page of that exam paper, we instructed that all figures should be rounded to 2 decimals. So we did not restate that in every question. We just put it on the front page. So just keep that in mind as we read together. Q Limited manufactures two products, Sunlight and Stasoft, and you have been appointed as their management accountant. You are required to prepare the annual operating budget for the year ending 28 February 2020. The following information relates to the year ending 28 February 2019. So this is very important. They have given you the data of 2019, and then they have given you changes in percentages in order to calculate for February 2020. So for example, they've told you that there are increases in the prices of materials and in the labor cost, in the selling price. There are changes in the sales unit. So they've given you all the percentages that represent changes between the year 2019 and 2020. And when students didn't read properly, they struggled with this question. So just make sure that you read what here does information relate to. And if percentages are given in terms of changing the figures to a new year, then you need to make sure that you apply it properly. In the first table, they've given you the sales, the quantity for sales and the selling price, both of 2019 for Sunlight and Stasoft. They've also given you the opening inventory to the year ended February 2020. That's, of course, the ending inventory or the closing inventory for the year ending 28 February 2019. So they've given you the Sunlight, the Stasoft, the material X and Y. They've given you the units, and they've also given you the price. Then they have given you the inputs in terms of a standard production unit for the material as well as the labor. So please note that they are trying to catch you out. If you don't wake up to the mathematics, you're going to be in trouble. They have given you milliliters in terms of your material X. But you will notice that the price is per liter. So you need to be very, very careful that you do not apply the total milliliters with a price of liters. You need to make sure that you convert. And we always convert to the highest measurement, which in this instance will be liters. Then we also have labor, where they have given you again minutes, 10 minutes and 5 minutes. So please be careful that you do not apply it just as such, because in the labor rate it was given per hour. So you need to be careful with the mathematics here. Then they've also told you that variable overheads are 12.5% of the direct labor cost. Then they've given you the required inventory at the end of the year. So it's 20% of the sales for the year for Sunlight, 10% for the sales of the year for Stasoft. They've given you material X and Y. That should be 20% of the production for the year and 30% for the production of the year. Then additional information regarding the purchase price of materials and the selling price of products for the year ending is as such. So they've told you how the prices are increased in terms of material X and Y. They've told you the changes in the labor cost, the changes in the selling prices of Stasoft and Sunlight, and also the changes in the sales units relating to Stasoft and Sunlight. In the last sentence, they have given you some information regarding elements to be applied in your projected income statement. So there's some sales commission is at 2.5% of sales. And please note that they say pay. The business pays sales commission because sales commission may also be earned. So we just need to read, in the instance of it being paid, it will of course be an other expense. Then fixed administration costs amounted to 5,250 Rand as on 28 February 2020. Then they've given you a list of budgets to compile. So there's a sales budget, production budget, material purchase budget, direct labor budget, then the budgeted cost per unit, which is of course a supplementary calculation. It is not a budget. And then the cost of goods budget, and then also the projected income statement, or as you would also know it, the statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income. The total of this question was 29 marks. It was quite a hefty question, 29 out of 100 marks. So if you did well in this question, you probably would have been well on your way to passing this paper. So let's see, I have drawn up for us a layout already because you have the template with you, and I will really highly advise you to, when you do these questions, first draft an empty skeleton for yourself of all the possible entries into the budgets, and then you start building a puzzle by reading the question and then adding the information where it should go in the columns. This is really an easy way to approach it, and it helps you to save time. So you really need to study the template off by heart if you want to make sure that you do well. Right, starting with the sales budget, we need to start with the sales units, and they've given us the sales units here. And this is the sales units relating to 2019 as it was stated. So it was 5,250 and 3,750 respectively. And they tell us at the end of the question that it needs to increase, that the sales units will increase by 10% and 12% for 2020. So I'm going to go and apply that. So the sales units for the sunlight was in the previous year 5,250. And I need to go and multiply that by the increase, and they tell us that it should increase, your sales units should increase by 10%, so that's 1.1. In terms of the Stasoft, it was 3,750 units, and we are told that the sales units will increase by 12%, so that's times 1.12. Then the selling price, I am supposing, is also changing. If we look at the percentages, they tell us the selling price is increasing by 30% and 25% respectively. So we need to go and apply that. The selling price was 11 Rand 50, and it is increasing by a total of 30%, so that's 1.3. And then in terms of the Stasoft, the selling price was 8 Rand 75, and it should be an increase of 25%, 1.25. Right, as I said, the instructions is to round to 2 decimals, so I am just going to round it 10.94. Just to make sure, because Excel does carry over the commas and consecutively, and then your answer will differ from mine. So just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, I'm just going to type in the values as they are required to be rounded. Right, so there's the total sales that we should be calculating. I also calculate just a final total for everything in case there is an additional mark for that. And there we go, we have our total sales, 132,284 Rand and 25 cents. Moving on to the production unit, the sales unit should now, production budget, the sales unit should now not be too difficult because we've already calculated those. The opening stock should also not be too difficult because you can simply read it from the question. They have indicated to you that the opening inventory was 450 and 250 units. So that will be used as is because the opening stock of 2020 is equal to the closing stock of 2019. So for the opening stock, we're going to say minus 450 and also minus 250. Please note how we minus the opening stock. This is a mistake that students make. The opening stock is minused because we are busy with the production budget. And in the instance of the production budget, you will find that the opening stock is already readily available in the storeroom at the beginning of the year. So therefore, that is not a portion that needs to be produced. And therefore, we will minus it because we don't have to produce it. Then For the closing stock, you were given some instruction. I just want to properly copy the name in here. That does not look nice. Closing stock, you were given some instruction. If we go back to the question, you were told that for the closing inventory, required inventory at the end of the year, Sunlight should be 20% of the sales for the year and Stasoft should be 10% of the sales for the year. So we're going to go back to the question and say, of the sales, this should be 20% for Sunlight. If I can just type correctly. And for the Stasoft, it should be 10% of the sales. So I'm going to times it by 10% and it gives us 420. We need to get to the sum of everything so that we can have our production units. Right, wonderful. From this point forward, we need to carry over the production units in order to calculate the materials. So here, I'm going to start with Sunlight, and the production unit was 6,480. So I'm just going to put it in each instance. Please note how I use the same one, because we need enough material X to make 6,480 Sunlight units, and of course enough of material Y to make 6,480 units of Sunlight. Then the input was given to us. They tell us it is 300 milliliters for Sunlight of material X, and for Sunlight material Y requires nothing. So I am just reading it from this summary that was given here. So for Sunlight, for material X, we need 300 milliliters. For material Y, we need nothing. For Stasoft, we need X 200 milliliters, 1 unit of material Y. So I'm just going back to fill that out. So the input material X 300, please note this is milliliters. And of material Y for Sunlight, we need nothing. Then for the Stasoft, the production unit was 4,370. Let me just make sure that I use the right amount. The input of material X was 200 milliliters. Please note it's milliliters. And for material Y, it was 1 unit. Right, so this is milliliters. I'm just milliliters. This is units. Right, so we're going to calculate the total. Obviously, this will be nothing because you need to multiply. So it will be nothing because anything times 0 is nothing. And then we're going to take the units times by the milliliters. And again, we're going to take the unit times by the milliliters. Then here we need to multiply as well. Of course, multiplying by 1, you will just get it as it is. So this will be units, this will be milliliters. All right, so we now are faced with a problem here, because our prices, I believe, was not given in milliliters. If we look at the price of material X, it was given in liters. So we now need to go and convert milliliters to liters. So I'm just going to say the grand total here, of course this is also milliliters, will then be the sum of these two. So it is this total plus that total. But this is still milliliters. Of course, this we need to add up as well, these two totals, and this is still, of course, units. I'm just going to add another line item here, which I am going to call conversion, convert to total. And now we need to convert the milliliters to liters. And of course, how many milliliters do we find in a liter? There's 1,000, so I need to divide by 1,000. and this will give me an answer in liters. Of course, I'm going to leave the units as they are, because you will find the price was given for material Y per unit. So there's no change there from one measurement to another. It was already given per unit. So I'm just going to leave this as units, so it will be the same. Great. Now we need to go and look at the opening stock and the closing stock. The opening stock, again, should not be too difficult because the liters and the units were given. So if we go back to the question, you can see that it is 500 and 950. So 500 liters and 950 units. So that is given to us. That's opening stock at the beginning of the year. Filling that out, opening stock, I'm going to say minus the 500, and for the material Y, we're going to say minus the 950. Again, please note, we minus the opening stock because that's a portion that we will not have to buy. We already have that stock available, so we should not buy it because we have it. We don't need to overspend by buying it. Right, then we need to go and find the closing stock, and I believe that that was given to us as some kind of percentage. So if I go back to my question again, they tell us that the closing stock, the required inventory at the end of the year is 20% of the production for the year and 30% of the production for the year. So what does production refer to? Please note, if we talk about the total production, it will be this converted total here. So it is everything that is required to make all the production units. So we need to know that up till this point is production, and when we start subtracting opening stock and adding closing stock, that is when we move towards what to buy, which is of course needed because we are busy with the material purchases budget. But everything up till this point before the opening stock is minus is the production total for the year. And we are told for the material X, it needs to be 20% of the production for the year. So it's going to be this total times 20%. And it's going to be for the material Y, we are told it's 30% of the production, so it will be the production times 0.3. Now we can go to calculate the stock that we have to buy, and that will be the converted total, and we need to then minus the 500 opening stock, add back the closing stock, and we get to the liters that we need to buy. I'm going to repeat that calculation. Minus opening stock, add closing stock, and that gives us the units that we have to buy. Now we need to go and consider the cost, and you will see that there are some changes in the prices, so we just need to be careful. It was given to us twice, as a matter of fact. Here the prices were given for 2019, and here the prices for 2019 were given again. And then they tell us that there is an increase. So for material X, the price increase is 10%, and for material Y, the price increase is 50%. So we need to go and apply that. Under the cost, I'm going to say the price for material X used to be at R3.50, and I need to increase it by a total of 10%, so it's times 1.1. And that means it's now R3.85 per liter. Then I need to go to my material Y, and that used to be R2.50. And I am told that I need to increase it by let me just check, make sure, 50%, I beg your pardon. It needs to be increased by 50%, so it's times 1.5. Then the total cost will be the stock that I have to buy times the cost, and the stock I have to buy times the cost. And this is now in rand. I'm just calculating a total here for in case that there is a mark for the total material budget. So let's just say total there. Wonderful. So this was the material budget. The only thing where they would have caught you out was where you may have forgotten to do this conversion. So that's very, very important to remember. Moving on to the labor budget, we of course have the production units at this point. So I'm just going back to my production budget to fill it out. Then we need to go and look at the input. So what do we need? And here they are also trying to catch us out because they've given you minutes instead of hours. So you need to know that you need to convert it to hours. And how do we do that? We need to divide by 60. So if I look at my question, we are given 10 minutes and 5 minutes for sunlight and Stasoft respectively. So 10 minutes and 5 minutes, we need to go and convert. So it's going to be divided 10 by 60. And of course, this gives us a repetition. So if we now use 2 decimals, it's 1,0,17. And for the 5 minutes, 5 out of 60, that should give us 0,08. Then the total hours here, I'm just going to pop that in as well. So the total hours, I just need to take this line down. I've put it in the wrong place. Bold. So if I get to a sum total, it will be the units times the hours. So this is now hours and hours because we have converted it by dividing by 60. Then we need to go and find the rate. Again, there is a change in the rate that we need to be wary of. If I look at the question, I'm told that the rate in 2019 was 25 and 35 Rand respectively, but there is a change in the labor rate and they say the labor cost has increased by 10%. So I need to go and do that calculation. So I'm going to say for sunlight, the price used to be 25 Rand per hour, but I have to increase it by 10% times 1.1. I have to go and look at my rate for the Stasoft, which was a 35 Rand, and it needs to be increased by 10% as well. And then if I want the total cost, it will be the hours times the rate per hour. And again, I'm just going to go and calculate a total for myself, just for in case there is a mark for that one. Great, we can move on. And the next one we have to do is then our cost of sales budget. But we first need to do a calculation before we can get to this one. So I'm just going to scroll down and say, I believe that they have asked us to do a cost per unit calculation. Just making sure that I'm setting this to the right font. Right, so let's look at the cost per unit. And here, of course, we need to calculate it for sunlight as well as Stasoft. How do we calculate the cost per unit? We need to go and make sure that we take into account all the inputs that are required. What inputs do we need to make a product? In cost accounting, we need material, direct labor, and overheads. And there might be several types of material, several types of overhead, several types of labor. We need to go and read the question. In this instance, we have 2 types of materials. So I'm just going to call it mat X and mat Y. Then we have labor and we have our overheads. So for material X, we want to know how much does it now cost to have material for 1 unit? So we need 300 milliliters for sunlight of material X, and we need the price. So going back to my material budget, I just want to see, so the price, I should take into account the price of material Y has changed to R3.85 and for material Y to R3.75. I just need to remember that I don't use the prices as they are given to me. I've already taken into account the increases there. So to do this calculation, I'm going to say I need it in liters because I am working with a price in liters. So for material Y, it is going to be, or for material X, I beg your pardon, it's going to be 300 milliliters divided by 1,000 so that I can get it to be liters. And then I'm going to times that by the new price, which is R3.85. For the Stasoft of material X, I need 200 milliliters. So I'm going to say it is 200 divided by 1,000 so that I can get it to liters. And I'm going to times it by the 3.85, which is the price of material X. So that is going to be 300 divided by 1,000 times 3.85. 200 divided by 1,000 times 3.85. Then we are on material Y. Just note that this gives you 1,155, so that's going to be 1,16. For material Y, we don't need anything for sunlight, so I'm just going to put a 0. And for Stasoft, we need 1 unit. So it's going to be 1 unit times, what is the new price per unit? It was R3.75. Then we are on the labor. Again, the labor was given to us in minutes. 10 and 5 minutes, and we need to make sure that we also use the new prices. So again, I'm just going to highlight them in yellow so that I prevent myself from going back to the question and using the wrong value or the wrong rate. In this instance, I'm going to say for labor, it is 10 minutes for sunlight. So it's going to be 10 out of 60. And I remember we rounded 10 out of 60. We had to round to 0.17. And we need to times that by the new rate, which is 27.50. For the Stasoft, it was 5 minutes. And I remember 5 minutes we had to round, if we divided it by 60, to 0.08. And the new rate for Stasoft was 38.50. I'm just going to do that multiplication then. And this will then be rounded to a total of 4.68. If I say 0.08 and I times that by 38.50, I get R3.08. Then in terms of the overheads, we need to go and check what was the rule there. And I believe they've given us a percentage to apply. They told us the overheads. Where is that sentence? The overheads, 12.5% of the direct labor. So if we go back to our direct labor, we're going to say it is then 4.68 times the 12.5%. And in this instance, it's going to be 3.08 times by 12.5%. Quickly doing that calculation. So it's this times 12.5%. And it's this times 12.5%. So as you can see, we end up with a figure that has 3 decimals. So this will be 0.59. and this one will be 0.39. Just to stick to the rounding rule so that everybody's on the same page. I'm going to get to the total per unit. So this is now the cost to make 1 unit. By adding everything together. So the cost per unit for Sunlight is R6.43, and for Stasoft it's R7.99. Right, so now we have also scored that mark. And in the next required part, we are now moving on to doing the budgeted cost per unit. The budgeted cost of goods manufactured. I beg your pardon, we've already done the cost per unit because we needed to do our cost of sales. Righty, so in terms of the material, students often get this incorrect. Please note that if you are doing your material purchases budget, this final total that you get here, I'm just going to highlight it in red so that you know it's a no-no. This total is not the total that should be calculated here, all right? Because this refers to direct material used. This is direct material that was purchased. Those are two different things. Please make sure that you take notice of that. All right. So in order to calculate the direct material that we used, I like to use a T account. I'm going to see if I can maybe squeeze it in here somewhere. I like to use a T account, right, for material. So if I draw up my T account, it is going to look like this. So please make sure that you don't use the answer to your material purchases budget. Students always do it. So it's direct material. And what does this direct material account normally look like? Well, we start with an opening stock. On this side, we have a closing stock. Then we have a purchases. And then we have here an issued to work in progress. And this issued to work in progress, this amount, I'm going to make it green because it's the right one. This is the amount that you want. This green figure will go here. Because that is the direct material used. It's the direct material that was issued to the work in progress. So that is what we are trying to calculate. So at this point, the purchases is easy because you have the purchases budget. So you're going to put the total, the red actually goes there. So also I'm just going to highlight it. All right, then we need to calculate the opening stock and the closing stock value that we have available. So let's quickly do that. In terms of opening stock, we have our material, X and our material Y. And then for closing stock, we also have, let me just move it one bit. For closing stock, we also have material X and material Y. So now we need to go and see in the opening stock, what units did we have for material X and Y? If I look at the opening stock totals, it was 500 and 950. So that information I get from here. Okay. Then we also have closing stock units, and that we can take from our purchases budget. That was 31311 and this 563,6. So I'm just putting that in. So it is 563,6, and for the Y it was 1311. We need to go and determine what the prices are for these units. So the prices were, so this is the unit, this is the price, and it occurred to me just now that we're going to need another column. I'm just going to copy this and paste it below here so that we have enough space. So the price was given for the opening stock. That is not something that you have to struggle with. If I look at the prices, it was R3.50 and it was R2.50, I believe. And again, I've read it from two places, here as well as here. Then what was the value at the end of the year? So remember, the prices of material X and Y changed during the year. So the closing stock prices we have calculated here in our material purchases budget. It was 3.85 and 3.75, I believe. So to get to the totals, we are now going to multiply the units by the price. And we need to get the totals here. So it's going to be the sum of these two. So as you can see in material, we do a combined material. So if you have material X and Y, you need to put it together. Material X, Y, Z, put it together. So it's the sum of these two. And now we go and put it in. So the total here in the opening stock will be that 4125. The closing stock will be the 7086.10. Oh, I see it's 0.11 to use two decimals. Right, then we can go and calculate the work in progress easily because it needs to balance out this account. So it's going to be these two, and it should be equal to that. So here it's going to simply be this balancing figure minus the closing stock. So that's 25,874.30. Right, so that figure is going to go here. The direct labor, quite easy, because there you can just take your budget total. So it is this total here. I believe I did get to the total. There we go. And then the prime cost is the sum of your material and labor. The overheads, we were told, is 12.5% of direct labor cost. So it's going to be the direct labor cost times 12.5%. The total production cost will be the prime cost plus the overheads. Then we need to go and calculate the opening stock and the closing stock. And here we need to use our cost per unit that we have now just calculated. All right, that's quite important. I see that they've also not given you the cost per unit at the beginning of the year. However, you can go and calculate that one as well. In other questions, they've given you the cost per unit at the beginning of the year. Here, they've not. So I'm just going to skip over on the the opening stock, and first do the closing stock. Please note, for the cost of sales budget, you should add the opening stock and minus the closing stock. So it's not the same as in the other budgets, because now we are busy with a financial accountment statement here. It's no longer a budget calculation, but it's a statement. So please remember the closing stock is minus. So to get to the closing stock in this instance, we are going to say what is the units of finished goods at the end of the year. That we have in our production budget. So the finished goods were the closing stock here. And for Sunlight, it was 1,155. And for Stasoft, it was 420. So now I need to go and apply that and also apply the cost per unit that I've calculated here, but this is for 2020. The cost per unit of Sunlight was 6,43, and for Stasoft it was 7,99. So I'm going to do that calculation. I no longer know where to squeeze it in. So I am just going to put it here. Okay, I'm going to say closing stock. So for the closing stock, we are going to use our finished goods. And the finished goods were, we had Sunlight and we had Stasoft. I'm just going to call it Sun and Stasoft. So it was 1,155 and I beg your pardon, it was 420. So I got these units from where? From this line item. So I'm just going to again highlight it in the same color. Let's do yellow. Oh no, we've already used yellow, so let's rather make it, what have we not used? Blue. So that's the totals, that's where we get that from. Right, what was the cost per unit? We have calculated it. And that is our calculation that we've done here. So it was for Sunlight 6,43. And for Stasoft, it was 7,99. So I'm going to multiply these two. And then I'm going to add up again. And I'm going to get to the sum of these two. And this total is going to go here. So this is equal minus that amount. Again, I'm just going to put it in the same color. What have we not used yet? Let's make it gray. We also need to go and calculate the opening stock. And again, we have Sun and Stasoft. The opening stock was given to us as 450 units. And 250 units respectively. So I'm just going back to the question to show you where I found it. There. Right, now we don't have a cost per unit for our opening stock. So we will have to go and calculate the cost per unit again for our opening stock as well. So I'm just going to copy this layout and then we're going to redo it. And this will be for 2019. Right, if I look at material X, it was worth 3 Rand 50 and I needed 300 milliliters. So it's 300 divided by 1,000. And the price in the previous year was 3 Rand 50. Then for material X in terms of Stasoft, it was 200 milliliters. I'm just taking it to liters and it was 2 Rand 50. In terms of material X, there was a Y, there was nothing for Sunlight and it was 1 unit for Stasoft. So it was 1 unit and we need to times that by the price of the previous year, which was 2 Rand 50. Sorry, I've just made an error here. Just note the price is 3 Rand 50. See how easy it is to make a mistake? We need to be awake. 3 Rand 50 for material X. So this is going to be 300 divided by 1,000 times 3 Rand 50. And this is going to be 200 divided by 1,000 times 3 Rand 50. Then for material Y, this will be nothing. This will be R2.50. The labor was charged at 25 and 35 Rand an hour last year. Therefore, we're going to say it is again the hours 0.17. But now we're going to times it by 25 Rand. And here the timing is still the same, so it's 0.08. And we're going to times that by the previous rate of 35 Rand. And there we have our figures for labor. Our overheads will be 12.5%, so it's going to be 4.25 times 12.5%, and it will be 280 times 12.5%. Let's see what figure do we get to. And that should be 0.53. 280 times 12.5 gives us 35 cents. Of course, we need the sum of everything. We need to now take these figures to our units. It was 5.83 and this was 6.35, and we need to multiply. And we're going to get to a sum total for opening stock. It's 4211. I'm going to highlight this figure in yet another color. Let's use this pinkish brownish tone. And that opening stock figure 4211 will come and stand there. I'm just going to put everything in blocks so that you can see which is calculations versus which is budgets. And then we're going to complete our cost of goods sold. Right, so for cost of goods sold, it is going to be the production cost for the year. Add your opening stock minus your closing stock. I've already typed a minus, so I'm just going to do that. And there we go, cost of goods sold. Again, I'm just going to put this in. And please note how opening stock is now added and closing stock is subtracted. It's the opposite of what we, for example, have done here and here in your material purchases budget. Okay, we are on our income statement. I'm just going to insert a row here. Right, income statement. In order to do the income statement, we are going to need the sales. So this is simply the total of the sales budget. Going back, it should be this total. We're going to minus the cost of sales, which is the figure we just calculated. And the gross profit is, of course, the difference between those two. Then the other expenses, they have given us other expenses in this question. So there were actually two of them. So let me just insert another row. The other expenses we had were our sales commission. And it was also some admin costs. Here we will say the sales commission was 2.5% of sales. So it's this figure times 2.5%. We're going to round that to 2 decimals. So that will be 3307,11. Then for the administrative costs, we were told that they were 5250. And this figure I have gotten, or these figures I have gotten from here. Right, I'm just going to add these two together. And then the profit before tax will, of course, be the gross profit minus other expenses. We have to calculate our tax for the year. So that will be the profit before tax times 28%. And in total, it is rounded to 15456,42. Then finally, we need to get to the profit for the year, and that's going to be the profit before tax minus the 28% tax, and that is going to give us a final net profit of 39745 and 7 cents. Right, so this has been a very, very comprehensive question. I like this question a lot. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video, knowing that this is probably the most difficult question you can find. And yeah, then I will definitely see you in our next lecture. Keep well until then.